Hi Brollies, Marvin here from TechBroll.com, where we do unboxings, reviews, and sexy B-rolls. And today we're going to do an unboxing review of the Mountain Everest MAX mechanical keyboard, and I'll also share with you how I made it sound from this to this. This mechanical keyboard is actually my current daily driver right now, simply because of its features that are tailor-made for a content creator/gamer like myself. I absolutely love all the customizable features of this keyboard. However, being a mechanical keyboard enthusiast, of course, the stock configuration simply won't cut it for my preference, so I had to modify it, which again, I'll show you how in this video. With that being said, let's get into it. Alright guys, first things first, huge thanks to Good Game PH for sending this in. You can check the link below if you're interested. Now let's start with the unboxing experience, and this is something that I immediately appreciated with Mountain because the packaging, as you can tell, is really premium, and it should be given the fact that this keyboard is not cheap by any means. Here at the back we have all of its key features and specifications that we're gonna tackle in this video. But essentially, what's important here is that this keyboard is highly customizable with a detachable numpad and media control unit that you can place on either side, and it also has a few customizable buttons and a multifunction knob. Oh, it's hot swappable too, by the way, which is awesome. Inside the box, we have the keyboard itself, and right here we have some interesting sketches of the design language of the Mountain Everest MAX. We also have here an included detachable wrist rest. Now, what I like about this packaging is this sort of drawer where we have the rest of the components and accessories. So we have the accessories, media dock, numpad, and USB cables. And then right here we have the packaging for the quick start guide, and we even have a few Mountain stickers right here. The quick start guide is fairly simple and is written in different languages. Inside the customized box, we have a few Cherry MX switches for you to try, since again this keyboard is hot swappable. We also have a few magnetic keyboard feet, an escape keycap, and a keycap and switch puller. I feel like the packaging for the accessories is a bit overkill, as you can tell. Even the packaging for the braided USB cable has some foam, which is completely unnecessary in my opinion, but I'm here for it. Definitely appreciated. Next, we have the numpad, again with substantial protection, and at first look and touch, the detachable numpad feels solid, made out of a combination of plastic and aluminum. However, the customizable buttons here on top feel harder to push than I anticipated, especially if I compare this with the buttons on my Elgato Stream Deck. Now, here on this side, we have a few magnets. Same on the other side, since you can attach this to either side of the keyboard. You simply have to slide the USB Type-C connector depending on the orientation that you like. Now, we also have a couple of detachable feet with strong magnets, and I don't say this lightly because these magnets are really tight, as you can tell. Next, we have the media dock, again with a good amount of protection. But in terms of its construction, this is made almost entirely out of plastic. So we have a few LED indicators, clicky and tactile buttons, and a multifunction knob with a display. Here we have the USB Type-C plug, and again, you can place this on either side of the keyboard, much like the numpad. Now, when I first held and took a look at the Mountain Everest Core, which essentially is the TKL keyboard itself, it has some decent weight to it of around 880 grams, and it doesn't flex at all, and like the detachable numpad, it is made out of a combination of aluminum and plastic. The construction is actually made out of two aluminum backplates with a sandwich plastic diffuser for the RGB lining and a plastic bottom housing. Now in terms of the layout, again we have a standard 10 keyless form factor with a standard ANSI layout. Flipping it on its front side, as you can tell, the profile of this keyboard is low profile, which means half of the switches are visible. Flipping it on its side, we have the USB Type-C port and a few magnets where we can connect the detachable numpad. The keycap's profile is standard OEM. Flipping it on the back side, we have a USB Type-A pass-through port and a couple of USB Type-C ports on either side for the media dock. As you can see, the RGB lining goes all around the entire keyboard. Now, turning it all over at the bottom, we have a couple of magnetic feet that you can adjust the height by adding more magnetic feet included in the package. We also have more rubber feet, and what's good about this is that we have an abundant amount of cable routing channels. Again, the magnetic feet are really strong and actually quite satisfying to play with. Alright, so with the unboxing and parts overview out of the way, let me share with you all my thoughts about this keyboard. Let's start with the keycaps. The keycaps are probably one of the few things that I am disappointed about this keyboard, given its price, as it only features ABS keycaps with printed legends, and we all know that this will fade away and shine over time. Not to mention the quite thin construction that also affects the overall sound and feel of the keyboard. So I'll definitely replace this later with some nice PBT keycaps. Now in terms of the switches, while I'm not the biggest fan of Cherry MX switches because quite frankly, there are a ton of better alternatives, I'm okay with this, especially that this is fairly common on pre-built and mass-produced keyboards at this price point. Usually we get Gateron or Kale. These Cherry MX threads are still substantially decent, to say the least. The good thing here is that the board itself is hot swappable, albeit limited to 3-pin switches, but of course, you can just clip any 5-pin switches to make it compatible with this board. Inside the package, we also have an included wrist rest that can magnetically attach to the keyboard like so. It is fairly soft and comfortable. As for the media dock, like I said, you can place it on either side of the keyboard depending on your preference. Like for example, if you prefer controlling the media dock without having to lift your right hand away from the mouse, you can place the media dock on the left side. And when it comes to the numpad, if you want more real estate for your mouse, especially when playing FPS games, you can place the numpad on the left side as well. So as you can tell, this design implementation tailors with a lot of use case scenarios, workflow, and preference for both productivity and gaming. Now in terms of the stabilizers, it has pre-applied lubricant which helps reduce the rattle and makes it smoother than usual. However, at least for my preference, it is still not enough, so later, I'll show you how I modified it to sound and feel better. Now before we head into the modifications part of this video, let me just share with you my thoughts about the detachable numpad and the media dock. The numpad has 4 buttons that you can customize depending on your preference. Take it as a small and simpler version of the Elgato Stream Deck. You can use it for OS commands like shutting down your computer and launching a calculator. You can also use this to launch different programs, execute macros, use it as media keys, keyboard, and mouse shortcuts. And what's good about this is that you can create a different set of shortcuts depending on which program is open. However, to be honest, sometimes it's kind of buggy and doesn't automatically change when you switch between active applications. And every time it happens, I just manually switch the profile using the media dock. Speaking of the media dock, it has all the basic functions like previous and next track, play and pause, and mute. But what's unique here is the multifunction knob that not only you can use as a volume wheel, but you can also use to change in between different functions such as clock, profiles, lighting modes, brightness, PC info, and others. Now at first, I thought this is super useful, but to be honest, I only use it for volume and for changing profiles, and probably for the display clock. I still appreciate that I can place it on either side though, so definitely a huge plus for me. Overall, in terms of the features, it has everything I need for my workflow and use case scenarios for both productivity and gaming, with customizable buttons and on-the-fly profile switching between apps. I don't even need to use my Elgato Stream Deck for most of my daily tasks, and I don't need to grab a separate numpad for calculations and stuff, since I can just place it on the left side where it's really not a hindrance for my mouse. Alright, so the question now is, how did I get this keyboard to sound from this to this? First, I replaced the stock Cherry MX Red with lubed and filmed Durac L7 switches, and that alone made a ton of difference in terms of sound and feel. Huge thanks by the way to Zion Studios PH for providing the switches. Next, I took it a step further by replacing the stock thin ABS keycaps with Aqua Silent Cherry Profile PBT double shot keycaps from Epo Maker. I chose this set of keycaps because I feel like the gray colorway perfectly matches the color of the Mountain Everest keyboard, and that Cherry Profile is my new favorite profile simply because it is very comfortable to type with, and it also sounds good and not as loud as, let's say, SA and other chunky profile keycap set. I'm really a fan of Aqua keycaps because they are generally good in terms of design and construction and are relatively inexpensive as well. Not to mention, it has one of the best packagings ever when it comes to keycap set. Check the link below to Epo Maker's website if you're interested. And lastly, in terms of modifications, even though the stabilizers came with pre-applied lubricant, I still decided to remove and clean it and modified it using my favorite method, which is micropore wrap around the wire method. Essentially, I lube the stabilizer's housing and stem with Krytox 205 grade 0, and then I wrap the wires with a thin layer of micropore tape, lube it with a substantial amount of Krytox 205 grade 0, put it together, and use it for a few days to break it in. After a few days, it now sounds and feels way better than the stock configuration, I would say. Now, before we finish this video, let me show you again the software to make this review relatively complete. Inside the Basecamp software, we have the profiles, pretty straightforward. We have the lighting tab, wherein you can customize the lighting effects with different colors, brightness levels, and animations. Next, we have the key binding tab, where we have most of the customization options when it comes to per key adjustments. Next, we have the macro, and then we have the display dial, which I hope Mountain can add more customization options other than these predefined options. I hope we can also add our own shortcuts here, much like what we can do on the numpad. And lastly, we have the general settings. Alright, so to conclude, here's the thing. This keyboard is definitely not for everyone. First, it is quite expensive for a pre-built keyboard. Second, it has a lot of things going on, which again is not for a typical user. However, if you're someone who values time and efficiency and you think these features suit your workflow and you have the budget, then definitely go for it. I feel like if you're going to get this keyboard, you should have a clear view of how you will take advantage of all the features it has to offer to maximize your investment. This is honestly good for content creators like me. That's why I decided to use this as my daily driver, considering that I have a lot of different keyboards here in the studio, including my beloved GMMK Pro. So yeah, until something better comes in, or if I miss using my GMMK Pro, I'll use this for the majority of time. And there you have it guys, thank you for watching. Huge thanks to Good Game PH for the Mountain Everest MAX, to Zion Studios PH for the Durac L7 switches, and to Epo Maker for the Aqua PBT keycaps. You can get all of these using the links below. Thank you for watching, subscribe if you like this, and see you next time. Have a great day guys, you're awesome.